You want to watch this entire build video because this Sunbracers Solar Warlock loadout is one that is quickly cementing itself as the best build in all of Destiny, even contesting the prestigious Starfire Solar Warlock for that top spot. It'll have you feeling like an actual Call of Duty AC-130 as you spam infinite solar grenades across the map from above with the best ad clear in the game, 20-second supers, a massive 100% uptime healing buff, and, given the right setup, the best boss damage in the entire game. And with Starfire suspected to be up on the chopping block to receive Bungie's nerf bat, this Sunbracers Warlock setup is on its way to steal that world's best build accolade if it hasn't already. To put it simply, mastering this build will definitely convince all of your friends and clannies that you are the best Warlock of your group, and will convince the 2/3 of you watching who are not yet subscribed, hopefully at least consider clicking that button. But before we get started, today's build video would not be possible without its sponsor, Bespoke Post, a monthly membership club that delivers a box of awesome top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. 90% of the products come from small brands, many of which are based right here in the US, such as the Forge box featuring a Damascus steel knife made by Bare Bones based in Salt Lake City. Every month, Bespoke Post introduces members to cool new products such as outdoor gear, barware, clothing, and more, with every box of awesome having around $70 worth of goods, but only costing you a fraction of the value. You can even preview your box and its contents before it's shipped, and can optionally swap it for a different box or skip that month entirely for no charge to guarantee that you only pay for what you want. It's all completely free to join, and you can skip a month or cancel at any time. I'm a massive foodie, so their Scorch box containing an assortment of hot sauces was perfect for me. I also grabbed the Hecho box as well, which came with a beautiful mortar and pestle and some build your own hot sauce kits. No matter who you are, they have something for your specific interests, and you can sign up today and even get 20% off your first box of awesome by clicking the link in the description and entering code Mactics20 at checkout, or by going to bespokepost.com/Mactics20. Thanks to Bespoke Post for sponsoring the video. Now let's talk about our Solar Sunbracers Warlock masterpiece. The whole build revolves around our solar grenade, which creates a scorching field on impact that lasts for 4 seconds, applying scorch stacks to targets both on impact and who stand in it over time. And with the use of the Sunbracers, the exotic armor piece of choice for this build, our grenades will become so strong that you'll think you've activated a brand new super. However, there is a bit of a misunderstanding about how these gloves actually work. So let's dive into the specifics. In addition to your solar grenades intrinsically receiving the fastball perk and lasting twice as long on the field, upon achieving a powered melee kill, you are rewarded with the Sunbracers Ready buff for 5 seconds. At any point during your possession of this Sunbracers Ready buff, you may activate your grenade ability to acquire the Sunbracers buff, granting unlimited solar grenades for 5 seconds, allowing for a total of 5 grenade activations within that period. This means that, contrary to popular belief, you do not necessarily need to immediately begin your grenade throwing rampage immediately after enacting a powered melee final blow. You actually have 5 full seconds to assess your situation and gain your bearings before you begin to rain down fire. Additionally, if you are missing your grenade when dealing a powered melee final blow, your grenade will fully recharge along with receiving the Sunbracers Ready buff without automatically activating the 5-second solar grenade spam period, meaning you effectively get another grenade on top of everything completely for free. Our melee ability of choice to achieve these powered melee kills will of course be the Incinerator Snap, which although has less range than the alternate option in Celestial Fire, deals much more damage and applies significantly more Scorch stacks. The latter of those facts is crucial, as in Destiny, solar debuff effects like Scorch and Ignite inherit their damage type from the source that applied them, meaning that if you are to use your incinerator snap on an enemy, and that enemy is to die from the damage over time scorch burn applied to them, it will still count as a powered melee kill and grant the Sunbracers ready buff, since the scorch damage registers as melee damage in that circumstance. Our solar grenades only get better as well, with our first aspect, Touch of Flame, which increases the duration of our solar grenades by another 2 seconds, up to 10 seconds total, and causes them to release magma orbs, increasing the damage and range of their influence. This is especially important for dealing massive damage to large targets like champions and bosses as well, as although enemies in Destiny will only take damage from a maximum of 1 solar grenade at a time, there is no limit to how many magma orbs can hurt them in tandem. This is what allows for solar grenades to absolutely blow Starfire Protocol fusion grenades out of the water in some circumstances, as you can literally unleash a waterfall of fire onto even the most dangerous bosses in all of Destiny. Aspect number 2 in Heat Rises is bringing us a whole lot of benefits as well, beginning with a 15-second buff on grenade consumption that modifies our glide to last indefinitely, with that buff being extendable up to 30 seconds from kills. The Heat Rises aspect also passively grants weapon and ability usage while gliding, and melee ability energy refunds from airborne kills, making it significantly easier to maintain our loop of powered melee final blows, followed by infinite solar grenades. Now, with this aspect in mind, I specifically recommend the Strafe Glide Jump option, as it provides the best control for our permanent in-air setup. While you can maintain levitation infinitely while stationary, movement is typically necessary while engaged in combat, and Strafe Glide provides the best in-air control with Heat Rises and feels the smoothest for maneuvering between your grounded and airborne states. But I do want to point out a neat little trick that my friend Imagine showed me that allows you to become practically impossible to hit while airborne. In Destiny, enemies that are trying to fire at you while you are mid-air will always aim for the upper third of your character model, the upper chest and the head, meaning that if you see a sniper charging a shot at you or are receiving a lot of damage, simply double tapping your jump to deactivate and reactivate it to fall a short distance will temporarily safeguard you from all damage as the enemies retune their target acquisition. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but with the permanent restoration healing buffs we will have, that I will show you how to acquire and maintain in just a moment, this small gap of no damage taken will give your restoration time to heal you back up to full and keep you safe indefinitely. This restoration will be acquired through our class ability, Phoenix Dive, which on activation simply dives to the ground and applies Cure to you and all nearby allies. However, if Phoenix Dive is cast while in possession of the Heat Rises buff, it also applies 2 stacks of restoration to you for 3 seconds, deals damage, and inflicts 40 Scorch stacks to all nearby enemies. However, 3 seconds of restoration is nothing special, so it is important to occupy your first fragment slot with the Ember of Empyrean, which allows solar weapon and ability kills to extend restoration and radiant effects by 4 seconds per kill up to 12 seconds. It is because of this fragment that you'll want to do your best to use solar weapons with this build if possible, to further the ways you can extend your restoration through Ember of Empyrean. With this simple combination of Heat Rises, Phoenix Dive, and Ember of Empyrean, you can effectively maintain a permanent restoration ×2 buff, which translates to a 65 HP per second heal so long as you continuously get kills, making it practically impossible for you to get killed yourself. However, given that you only start with a 3-second timer, it can be a bit difficult to get that initial timer stacked up to 12 seconds. My personal recommendation is for you to throw a grenade on a pack of enemies before executing your Phoenix Dive to acquire 3 seconds of restoration, As you finish your dive and obtain your initial buff, your grenade will kill the enemies you threw it on, instantly bumping you up to anywhere from 7 to 12 seconds, depending on how many enemies you kill. You can also prep enemies for death before activating your dive with effects like Scorch and Ignite from your grenades and melee ability. And considering you want your melee ability up as much as possible to scorch targets and activate your Sunbracers, you'll want to occupy fragment slot number 2 with the Ember of Searing, which generates a fire sprite and refunds melee ability energy when defeating scorched targets. You'll then want to fill slot number 3 with the Ember of Singeing for 300% additional base class ability regeneration for 3 seconds when applying Scorch to enemies, to grant you access to your dive more often to begin your restoration loop, and to use offensively to apply Scorch to enemies at any time. Your final fragment slot will be filled with the Ember of Ashes, which increases the amount of Scorch stacks applied to targets from all scorching abilities. Specifically, it increases the detonation of our solar grenades from 11 to 21 Scorch stacks, the damage over time of those grenades from 9 to 14, the impact of Phoenix Dive from 40 to 60, and each spark of the Incinerator Snap from 20 to 30 for a total of 150 Scorch stacks across all 5 sparks. This is important for applying much more damage to enemies across the board, especially tankier targets, by activating Ignite procs more often by getting enemies to 100 Scorch stacks. This fragment alone will increase your champion shredding and boss busting capabilities tenfold. Another thing that will level up this build tenfold is our complete mod setup, starting with Ashes to Assets on the helmet for increased super gains from grenade final blows. You'll then want to slot Firepower on your gloves to generate Orbs of Power on grenade final blows, as well as Reaper on your class item to generate Orbs of Power on weapon final blows after activating your Phoenix Dive. You'll scavenge these Orbs of Power to fuel your Elemental Weapon Surge mods on your boots, increasing your weapon damage of that element by 10% for 1 copy and 17% for 2. You'll also want to slot Time Dilation on your class item to increase the duration of each armor charge stack from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. After that, you'll want to further enable your ability chaining capabilities with momentum transfer and bolstering detonation on your gloves for a large chunk of melee ability and class ability refund respectively when dealing damage with a grenade, with a 7-second cooldown between procs. You can then round out this core mod setup with either Heavy Finder and Scout, or Elemental Siphon mods on the helmet, Resists and Reserves on the chest, and stat mods on all 5 pieces, prioritizing Resilience, Recovery, and Intellect in that order. And as always, you can copy all of these abilities, aspects, fragments, and mods over to your Guardian with just 1 click using the Destiny Item Manager link in the description down below. And if you also want to consider tagging those like and subscribe buttons while you're down there, that would be pretty cool too. Now that you know everything about the build, it's time to walk through your base ability rotations and how to put it all to use. You'll always look to open by consuming your current grenade to acquire 15 seconds of heat rises. You'll then want to defeat an enemy with your melee ability or the Scorch from an Incinerator Snap to fully restore the grenade you just ate for heat rises and to acquire the Sunbracers ready buff. You'll then have 5 seconds to position yourself before you can begin throwing your infinite grenade barrage for 5 seconds, making sure to try to use your Phoenix Dive right as enemies are dying to your grenades to acquire your 3-second restoration buff that will immediately spike up to 12 seconds from defeated enemies, thanks to Ember of Empyrean. From here, you'll want to continuously cycle between your melee and grenades, being sure to stay airborne as often as possible to constantly receive melee energy refund from defeating targets while airborne, thanks to heat rises. And also remember that throughout this entire sequence, you'll be regenerating even more melee ability energy and class ability energy through Scorched target defeats and Scorch applications thanks to the embers of searing and singeing. And if that wasn't enough ability energy to keep you satisfied, you'll also be refunding even more melee ability and class ability energy from dealing grenade damage thanks to mods like bolstering detonation and momentum transfer. As far as boss damage goes, solar grenades are best utilized against stationary bosses with a ceiling above them, allowing you to stack up the magma orbs in a tight cluster to ensure every single one of them hits the boss. However, even against bosses that don't have a ceiling above them, coating them in solar grenades in addition to your traditional DPS weapon usage in rockets, Wither Horde, and things of that nature can still work perfectly fine. I hope you enjoyed today's build viewing experience and equally enjoy using it in game. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.